while data is king, not disputing that at all, when we're looking at data, we should be remembering that everything we are seeing represents real people with real problems and motivations. So I think empathy and common sense is often undervalued in marketing.
Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to Growth Mentors, the podcast where we share snackable growth hacks, strategies, and best practices in how to drive maximum marketing impact and grow your bottom line. I'm your host, Matt LeBlanc, and today we are going to be talking about the customer journey, how to adapt your marketing strategy to different phases of the marketing funnel. And here to help us do that is Caroline Mercurio, the Agency Group Director at Jump 450. How you doing, Caroline?
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to be talking about how to adapt a digital marketing strategy to different phases of the customer journey today, from awareness to consideration to conversion. Why don't we start with why it is important to adapt these strategies to different parts of the funnel?
Sure. So marketing comes down to reaching the right people, the right time, the right place with the right message. And so adapting our strategy and our tactics impacts all four of those variables. So, for example, depending on the product and how direct response it is, someone who's in the awareness phase might respond better to creative that's more informative, more branded, where someone more further down the funnel might need urgency messaging or a promotion or something like that to really convince them to take the final step and to convert. We also need to consider that certain platforms are going to be better for driving awareness than others. Social media, YouTube, those are great places to find our customers, while search engines are a place where our customers are going to find us.
Excellent. So what would the primary goal be of the awareness phase?
Sure. So in awareness, the main goal is to identify the problem statement for our customer or our key customer groups. What is their pain point? What is the problem that they're looking to solve? And we can then introduce the brand as the best solution for that problem.
Do you have maybe an example of that, or like a general example of like the kind of that approach?
So we had a client, for example, that was working with coaching students and coaching students specifically for sports training. This was via a VR headset and gave them an opportunity to do batting practice within their home and gave them real-time stats and feedback and things like that. So thinking about what the problem statement for this group was, it was really, we want to perform better, we want to play better, or we want to make a team or get a scholarship or whatever it was. There was a goal in mind, and our job was to say why this solution was superior to hiring a coach or going to a batting cage. And that was an interesting case too, because there weren't really direct competitors, but there was still a full field of adjacent markets. So when we're thinking about who we're in competition against, really for those dollars to solve that problem, it became a much wider market than, we just don't have any direct competitors. So thinking about what is the problem that the consumer is trying to solve, and then introducing the brand to be a solution for that problem.
So what types of content work well in the awareness phase?
Blog posts, social media content, especially user-generated content, infographics, because they can give you an opportunity to really explore the brand, educational videos, all of those can work well. The goal is to make an impression, cut through the ad noise, and really provide memorable, but also valuable and easily digestible information without seeming too sales-focused.
Sure. I feel like that's the key piece right there at the end, right? Is without seeming too sales focused. Would you say that like a lot of companies take this educational approach? Is this really the place to start with that?
It depends on the brand, but I would say yes, overall. If you are a product or a brand that requires education to make a sale or to really explain what you do, you're more complex or more niche product, then I think that this is a good opportunity to do so and to really show how you're unique. But some of the best upper funnel campaigns in history have been a jingle or have been just something that inspired curiosity, maybe that didn't actually give away everything at the head. So it really is going to depend on your brand, your audience, and your goals, and what kind of platforms you're appearing on.
That's such a great point, actually. As you're explaining it, I'm thinking about, I'm sort of getting ahead of myself here, but I'm thinking more about the consideration phase, which we're about to move into. But the consideration phase is also sort of like the debate. And maybe that's the time where educational content is a bit more relevant. So just kind of moving into that, how should the marketing approach change in the consideration phase?
So in the consideration stage, content should be more detailed and comparative. It's an opportunity to showcase the product or the service's unique value props, their positioning. We still hold the customer and the problem statement at the center, but now we're starting to show off, so to speak.
Yeah. Can you unpack show off a little bit?
Yeah. So if our goal was to inspire excitement or interest or just get people to remember our name in the awareness stage, now is a chance to kind of start to dive into what makes us special.
Absolutely. And then what kinds of content are most relevant in the consideration stage, or most effective rather?
Yeah, UGC is still user-generated content. It's still great here. But depending on the product or service, we can also start to leverage case studies, product comparison guides, webinars, in-depth blog posts or white papers. All of those things can be effective for this stage. But to be honest, if you are a direct response B2C brand, consideration and awareness may not really need to be differentiated. But for products or services that have a really long time to convert, or B2B brands, or more lead gen brands, there's more nuance here.
Absolutely. And so then just kind of moving us down the funnel, so to speak, what is the main objective of the conversion stage?
So now we're in the final stage. The conversion campaigns provide that final push to turn a prospect into a customer. So this involves removing any lingering doubts around the product or its value and making the purchasing process as smooth as possible. So really the objective here is to make the sale, and that's going to come down to a combination of ad creative, but also the CRO, the user experience, where we're driving to on the landing page.
Definitely. And then what kinds of marketing tactics work best in the conversion stage?
So on the creative side, we want ads that drive urgency. This could be promotional messaging, customer testimonials, social from well-known brands like Allure's Best of Beauty Winners, for example, or as seen on XYZ. Those kinds of accolades or positive PR. Can also be personalized email campaigns, retargeting ads, free trials or demos, anything like that can be almost gone messaging, only 3 left, anything like that. All of that can be very effective at this stage.
Excellent. So how can businesses use data to improve their stage-specific marketing strategies?
First, I want to caveat that while data is king, not disputing that at all, when we're looking at data, we should be remembering that everything we are seeing represents real people with real problems and motivations. So I think empathy and common sense is often undervalued in marketing. Just remembering that these are people, not numbers on a spreadsheet. So why was click-through rate down on this ad versus that ad? Why was conversion rate better even though click-through rate was worse? Like really thinking about what the data is telling us and trying to understand what that's telling us about the customer and how they're responding to this particular ad and user experience. But all of that said, data is the most powerful weapon in our arsenal. CPA and ROAS come down to a few key inputs: spend, CPM, CTR, CVR, and if you're doing ROAS, AOV. And for anyone who's new to this, we know what spend is, but CPM is basically the cost that we're being charged to serve the ads. Click-through rate, how many of all the people who are seeing the ads, how many of them are clicking through. Conversion rate, of all the people who are clicking through, how many of them are making a purchase. And AOV is average order value, so how much is each person spending. Those metrics will determine what your CPA and ROAS are and can calculate your ROAS from all of those. So I'm not as particularly concerned with cost per click, except for CPM and CTR create cost per click. So those are always the 4 metrics or the 5 metrics with spend that I look at when I am parsing out the data. So I look at those first. And by analyzing those different metrics across different kinds of content and campaign types, we can get a sense of really exactly what's working and not working. So if CPM is high, either we are missing the mark with our creative or landing page, or more often we're targeting a really competitive audience. And that's only going to work if that audience is making up for it on one of the other metrics. On the flip side, an awareness objective will have really cheap CPMs, but the other key metrics will be weak, most likely. So how are we measuring incremental value in those cases? And measuring incremental value and all of that, that's a whole other conversation, but the data is a great starting point for evaluating what is or is not working in your campaigns. And from there, I like to think about the why, which I alluded to earlier. Why does this piece of creative drive a high click-through rate, but not a high conversion rate? Is it optimized to the funnel stage that we're targeting, or do we need to change or refine our audience? Does the landing page make sense with the ad? We should always contextualize what the data is telling us so that we know what to do next.
Excellent. Yeah. And I love your point about empathy, to really sort of, it sounds squishy, but it's not. It's really encouraging people to like sort of dig deeper into those pain points and the actual like purpose and why that, you know, people might be going after a certain product. And that is something that is going to be kind of like most impactful or compelling from kind of both sides, as the marketer and as the customer. I also thought it was funny that right after the empathy piece, you were like, so the most important weapons in our arsenal. With, yeah. Look, and we also use words like target. You know, we're trying to fill those holes. We're trying to fill those voids. So the customer's out there searching for a solution, and we're out there looking to fill that solution. So
I think that we get into a problem when we're focusing solely on just the hypotheses and the empathy and kind of the social sciences part of it versus, and I'm probably using social sciences wrong, versus just looking at the data and just, you know, turning it into numbers on a spreadsheet. We may need to start with the hypothesis when we're creating our first strategies if we don't have data to go off of.
Yeah.
If it's a brand new client, brand new account, you know, if we're taking steps in the dark. But I do want to say that wherever there is data available, that should always be the starting place. We're not going to be trying to create data or fit it into our own narratives. That's never the right thing to do. Don't try to go in with your bias and force the data to fit what you already think people should be wanting or doing. But just making sure that when we are looking at the data, we're really thinking about it and what it's telling us.
Yeah, exactly. And it can be tempting, I think, for a lot of marketers to sort of like make the data fit their own ideas. But, you know, I think that, not to go off in too much of a tangent here, but the piece that you're talking about is really the sort of like the piece that I see a lot of brands and marketers sort of like frustrated by, which is like, we want it to all be numbers. We want it to all be data. We want to be able to science the problem from top to bottom. And yet I feel like really experienced and savvy marketers know that the most impactful part of really any campaign is going to be the creative, right? That's going to be the thing that connects with people, the thing that converts, the thing that really kind of makes the difference. And a lot of times we try to science the creative, right? And I feel like the whole industry is like doing its best to sort of like break down a piece of creative into numbers and into all of these pieces and make it an equation. And to a certain extent, you can absolutely do that, right? But there is also this sort of like, I don't know, soft underbelly to the creative piece that is sort of very resistant. Yeah, it's very resistant to being turned into math and science. It's you know, how does a piece of creative strike someone?
Yeah, I mean, really the creative is what people are engaging with. It's the only thing that they're seeing other than the landing pages. I mean, as I said at the beginning, it's about reaching the right people in the right place at the right time with the right message. Now, the creative is only the last part of that. It's the right message. The rest of that is coming down to the right people, the right place, right time. That's the platform. That's, the algorithm. That's how we're training the algorithm. That's our settings, our audience settings, all of those things, our plan mix. So all that's not to be discounted, but from a simple customer perspective, to your point, creative is all that they're seeing, all that they're interacting with. So it is really, really imperative that we get it right. And I think it's really imperative that we get the right message in front of them that's going to speak to their true motivations. And a lot of times when people are putting together the problem statements, they're kind of focusing on bylines almost. It's like, this product is the XYZ best thing ever for blah, 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 and it solves this problem for people. It's the problem statement is not a marketing statement, and it doesn't have to go into your creative. The problem statement is usually something very personal, We had one recently for a client. I forget exactly what the case was, but it kind of came down to like, I want to be proud of my home, I think is what we kind of came to, right? And it was more defined by that, like proud of this particular aspect of my home life. But without going into too many details, it comes down to that human impulse. Like, I want to feel good. I want to feel good, not a byline that's, really polished and perfect. I feel like we've gotten a little tangential off of the topic of buyer stages, but
no, I love it. Let's take us back to the path that we're on here, though, and talk about a piece of creative. Is it possible for one piece of creative to sort of serve multiple stages of the buyer's journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on the brand, the budget, and the goal, creatives can serve multiple stages. However, for brands with that higher barrier to conversion, we're talking about programs that cost $6,000 to sign up for, right? For example, brands that have larger budgets, who are spending $1 million plus a month on their social media alone, just as an example, it can be much more effective to specify creative for different funnel stages in key markets. But if you're smaller, if you're scrappy, if you're, just getting started, there's a lot of types of creative that can be very effective at different funnel stages. User-generated content, testimonials being one really good example.
Absolutely. And just sort of like, I guess speaking broadly, how often should a business reassess their stage-specific marketing strategies?
Regularly. I mean, at least quarterly, I'd say. Consumer behaviors and market conditions change. The seasons change, which can have huge impacts on a business. So it's important to stay agile and adapt strategies based on those shifting goals, those priorities, seasonality, performance data, and, emerging trends.
In our last talk that we had about marketing strategies, you were talking about basically a marketing strategy, being the framework that sort of holds the tactics together and sort of brings cohesive order to a marketing approach. But one sort of like point that you held outside of that was, this may determine the type of creative that you're going to run and the types of people that you want to serve it to. But the speed of which you roll it out is sort of like held outside of that. And I think that it's a really important point because you're talking about, the industry pivoting, things change so quickly. And so you're really sort of like leaving that piece open to be able to pivot quickly, to be able to sort of like change what you're doing. I think it speaks to the same thing that you're talking to now in terms of just reassessing that marketing strategy on a regular basis to make sure that the goals that you have set are still relevant or most sort of top of mind.
The marketing funnel as a concept isn't really accurate to the way that people purchase. So maintaining that flexibility and that knowledge that there will be people who will see an awareness ad and purchase, and there will be people who have never interacted with your business before who see a conversion ad and purchase, right? And vice versa, people who have gone all the way through the funnel and then dropped off at the last minute. So let the data guide you. Don't try to force it to fit your narratives. If you have an awareness ad that's driving really good conversion, make it a conversion ad. All of this is really just theory, but it's a good place to start.
Absolutely. I think that what you're saying is the idea of a marketing funnel is almost an aspirational idea, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's marketers trying to put sort of cohesive order, a hypothetical journey that would make sense for a customer to go through. But in reality, we all know our own purchasing habits, and sometimes you know, the mood strikes you, you see the right thing at the right time, and you're purchasing on awareness, like you just said, or sometimes I need to see a conversion ad many times to learn about a product and consider a product. So,
or you click on an ad and you keep it open in your phone browser windows for 3 months and then that purchasing, and by then there's no attribution data at all.
Right. I find myself taking screenshots if I want to go back and search something later, or if I'm like really feeling sort of juicy about an ad that I'm seeing, I'll actually click on it and then click out because I know that they're just going to keep serving me then. So I'll be like, oh, that's my like save for later technique.
Or you add to cart so that you get the promotional messaging coming into your inbox.
Exactly. Thank you for that. So this is Caroline Mercurio, Agency Group Director at Jump 450. And if you are listening and you are interested in exploding your own digital growth, you can get in touch with Jump 450 and the link below in the description. That is www.jump450.com. And do not forget to subscribe for more weekly episodes. We'll see you next time.